Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Lights Camera Discussion Podcast. My name is Matty923. I'm here with Collective Unit and, of course, Todd. Guys, how we doing?
All good, mate. How are you?
All good. Todd, you excited for this one? This is your choice, of course.
I can't wait, mate. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah. Again, as you said, Collie, feeling a bit unprepared, as I said beforehand, but I think Todd can maybe carry a load for us in this one. I would assume. So
I'm the best.
yes, let's just get straight into it. Let's stop edging Todd, and we'll get straight into the meat and bones of things. So today's episode is on Edgar Wright. Todd, do you want to give us a bit of an introduction to the man, the myth, the legend?
Yeah, of course. So, Edgar Howard Wright was born in 1974 in Poole in Dorset. He's a writer, director, and producer. Wright made a couple of independent and short films before moving into TV. After working on a couple of projects, Wright moved to prominence with Spaced, utilising the quick cuts and transitions we know him for today, as well as working with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Spaced became a cult hit. From there, Wright went on to direct 6 feature films, 3 of which are part of the greatest trilogy of all time. That's a fact from Wikipedia that I read.
The Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah. I don't know if you had any. I know you enjoyed them. I don't know if you had any involvement in that trilogy. So, unfortunately, not. But I'm sure we'll find out which trilogy very soon.
Well, yeah, now. So, because today we're gonna be going through obviously Edgar Wright in 2 parts. Of course, this first part is going to be the Cornetto trilogy. So, Shaun the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and World's End. And then the second part, which will be coming out on Thursday, if you're listening to this on the Tuesday, is going to be covering the rest of his films. So Scott Pilgrim vs. World, Baby Driver, and then, of course, Last Night in Soho. Soho. Right. So on to the first film in the Cornetto trilogy. We have Shaun of the Dead. So the uneventful, aimless lives of a London electronic salesman and his layabout roommate are disrupted by the zombie apocalypse. Todd, start us off. What do you think of Shaun of the Dead?
So, I'm not going to go into too much hyperbole. I don't think it is the greatest film of all time, like as in the best made, but it is my favourite film of all time. So I watched it for the first time back in uni when I bought the DVD. And I didn't have like a TV aerial or anything, so I watched about 4 different DVDs on a loop with all the special features and all that kind of thing. And since then, I've revolved my personality, I think, around it. But yeah, it's one of those films that I love because it's easy to watch. It is a comfort film that I can just stick on in the background and play, and I like just having it on. But then at the same time, every time I watch it, I feel like I notice something new or something that I prefer from the last watch. It's a perfectly made film, I will say that. There's no sort of downtime on it. It is perfect.
Excellent.
Collie?
Yeah, so I think I must have experienced this maybe late 2000s or something on DVD. And similar to you, it was just one of those ones that I watched over and over and over. And rewatching it for this podcast, luckily enough to see it in the cinema on Tuesday night. It was just how good is this film, and kind of similar to what you were saying just before we started recording, Todd, about just watching a film and not like being on your phone, etc. Like the cinema is obviously perfect for that, so it was great to just be able to sit and watch like an hour 40 film without any distractions. And yeah, I love it. It's like perfect balance. Funny in terms of like laugh out loud funny, but also like just underlining comments and jokes that maybe take you a second to get.
Absolutely.
I say, what do you think of Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah, I'm the same as you guys. So I think I actually caught it. Must have been just after it came out at the cinema. So like when it was on DVD and stuff. I'm a sucker for a zombie film, and they marketed it as a rom-com when it first sort of came out and stuff, and that really kind of like tickled my fancy. So being able to watch it over the years and pick up like different jokes and stuff, and especially noticing this time, because I think it's been the longest time since I rewatched, or since I last watched it, sort of thing. There's a lot more that I could pick up and like the references and stuff as well. So I think it's one of those films that you can just get more out of it on each rewatch. And for a film to do that after all these years is pretty special, to be honest. And yeah, I totally love this film. I think it's, and I have since I watched it that first time. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So I mean, what we normally do is kind of go into like the sort of the performances and what sort of made the film good. So obviously we've got the main sort of the sort of like almost leading duo of Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, obviously knowing Edgar Wright from Spaced, as you said, Todd. But what was your thoughts on kind of their performances? Colin, do you want to kick us off with this one?
Yeah, sure. So I think they've both spoken various times, and Edgar Wright included, that it's quite autobiographical in terms of the relationship between Shaun and Ed, and how they have this favorite pub and it's where they go all the time, and all that kind of stuff. So I think, like, of the generation that would have watched this, like our generation, when we started going to the pub, obviously it was like maybe 10 years or whatever, or less than 10 years after the film came out. So you're instantly just like, right, this is our Winchester and this is our banter that we put between each other. And you've always got that group dynamic. Like, I know there's just two of them, but there's one that's like, this is the guy that's like the layabout, doesn't have a job or whatever. And one that tries to maybe be a bit better, but just gets like, quote unquote, like dragged down by their lazy funny mate. But yeah, their banter throughout is just great. Like, some of the best bits is just when they're in the flat prior to the zombie, if we're allowed to say that word, breakout happens. Yeah, their part is just great, and obviously it's just they built it from space, and they continue to build it through the films that we're going to be discussing today. But no, it's just so quick fire, and it's so believable that they're best pals. Which I think it just enhances the film. There's no, oh, these guys are just putting it on for the film kind of thing. Like, Edgar Wright could just be chucking up a camera when they're mucking about behind the scenes or whatever.
Absolutely. Todd?
Yeah, I just echo everything you say. Like, you can tell your best mates, you can tell you're having like a really good time on set. You know, like the when they play in the electro, it's not in the house, like, and they're just having a good time. Even before that, where they're walking down and singing White Lines with the zombie and stuff, like, you just feel that right the way through. Obviously, because we watching them and talking about them as a three, I feel like this is more. I know it's Shaun of the Dead, so it's Simon Pegg's film, but I love Nick Frost in this. Like, he is the draw for me, because Shaun's like in no way is this derogatory, but like quite one note in that he has a personality and a goal, and that's it right the way through. When with Ed, you see that sort of that dip, and the, you know, he's happy where he is. He's happy being this absolutely like waste of a human being. Like, but when when Shaun tells him to stop, telling him to chill out, and he's like smacking against the car seat, and you just see, like, he doesn't kick off. It's just in his face that he's devastated. I thought that was brilliant. But you know, in the garden with Bloody Mary, where he pushes her over and she like stands back up, and Nick Frost does this thing that I can't help but cry laughing at every time, and it's like Simon Pegg has this shocked face, and Nick Frost just goes and like bites his bottom lip like a 6-year-old would when they're nervous. Like, stuff like that is just it's amazing. And like you say, I think from the high funny to like the really, like, there's dramatic bits in this as well, you know, like right at the end. I don't know why you listen to this if you haven't seen it, but where Ed's dying, like, and they touch heads. It's just great casting. And I don't know if yous were the same. I didn't watch Spaced before this, so I watched Shaun of the Dead was my first introduction to both of them and Edgar Wright. So it was like, I wasn't like, oh, there's the mates already. Do you know what I mean? Like, this was a new thing, and it worked immediately. Yeah,
absolutely.
Massey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, as you said, it's so authentic, isn't it? Like the chemistry between the two of them, and you can tell it's just from years of working together and live, and I don't have to live together, but like being pals and stuff, which is not very often you sort of like can feel that through the screen. You can, in a lot of films when there's like a dynamic duo, it's like it's two actors that we put together because they have chemistry. Like in like the obviously in terms of like when they were getting casted, you know, they normally like chemistry kind of read throughs and stuff, but with these guys it just comes so naturally, like, and you can tell that. It's like a sort of layer more than just being casted, if that makes sense. Which I think is what is part of the reason that it's such a special film. Is there anything else in terms of like their Simon Pegg? I know I spoke about Nick Frost there, but Simon Pegg and his sort of like performance. I know Todd, you were saying he's got like a sort of like a goal and kind of maybe a linear sort of path. But was there anything that that kind of stood out for yourself with Simon Pegg, Todd?
His delivery for me is second to none. Like, again, I know this isn't some like ridiculous analysis of the film just because I love it so much. It's probably, like you say, just me going, this is great and that's great. But like, one of my favourite lines in the film, and it really pissed me off because have you seen the DVD covers where it's got like a single image on the front with a quote underneath? It was like the Warner Brothers exclusive DVDs that they did for a while, and one of them has the cricket bat for Shaun of the Dead, and it's got "just bash them in the head, that seems to work out" written across the bottom of the DVD case. The line in the film is Shaun has a cricket bat and he goes, "just bash them in the head," hits himself in the head. That seems to work. Ow. And it like delays and I thought like listening back to that line every time kills me just because of how like quick it is. And I think his line delivery is amazing. And I said he's got one goal, but then like obviously the things with his mum and like how he sort of obviously he cares for her a lot, but when she rings and he's like, "Liz," it's the first thing, you know. But that moment where, again, mum's dying, there's some real like emotional force, and I thought, you know, he's brilliant. He's class at what he does. Yeah, but mostly it's the line delivery. Collie, anything else about Simon Pegg?
I like the relationship with him and his father. Sorry, he's not my father. Bill Nighy. That's really good. And the real acting moments that they've got in the back of the car after he's been bitten and stuff like that. It just kind of makes it brings this up to be as good a film as it is, and it's not just like a zombies Dawn of the Dead parody film, which it could have been. Like this was around the time probably of, you know, the teen movie, or what are the other ones that you like, Massey? Those silly ones. It's like superhero movie.
Oh yeah,
and all that stuff.
Like Scary Movie.
Yeah, like this could have been just done as like this is, you know, zombie movie or whatever. But because it's got Edgar Wright and he's got all this wit and this humor to bring forth, and then the performances of the main two, it brings it up a little bit above everything else. And I just want to shout out Nick Frost's method or alleged method acting in this that I found on IMDb. He allegedly kept his genitals shaved throughout the production to create a genuine need to scratch that the character demanded. So, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis, eat your heart out.
Yeah, so you're right.
Oh,
I told that to Percy last night. He said, "I'm going to have to rewatch that and just watch specifically for Ed scratching down there." I'm like, you should. There'll be a montage on YouTube, I'm sure. And if there's not, Massey, get editing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely. Get millions of views, and get more people watching the podcast as well. So
Exactly.
that's my job this weekend. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Though, the thing that really stood out for me, you're right, Collie, was the relationship between Bill Nighy. Because like it's kind of framed as like as him being like a relatively new part of Shaun's life as well, like especially at the start when he's like quite antagonistic towards him. You think there's like it's like he's almost like weaseled his way into his life with Shaun's mum, but then obviously as you find out later on that you know, he's been there since like I think it was when Shaun was like, I want to say 7, 8, I can't remember the exact age, but it's like from like a young kid kind of thing, which I don't know if that is something that kind of like adds to Shaun's character or to Bill Nighy's character, or both actually, because the relationship has been such a long standing that obviously the childish kind of feelings that Shaun has towards this person that stole his mum from him has been going on for years and stuff as well. I think it's such a like nuanced kind of relationship, or like the feelings that they obviously have for each other, which I think is so interesting. And again, just from from the way the characters interact with each other, I think it works incredibly well. So of course, then we spoke about like the main two and kind of touched on Bill Nye there, but there's of course a sort of quite a supporting cast as well there. You got Kate Ashfield as Shaun's girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, Liz, Lucy Davis as Diane, and then Dylan Moran as David as well. They're kind of like obviously the sort of like supporting cast, I would say. What do you guys think about their sort of roles in this film and what they sort of brought to it? Todd, just start again.
I think it's nice that they all get their own moment. You know, I mean, Kate Ashworth obviously gets quite a bit as Liz, with her being sort of Shaun's love interest. But this was my first introduction to Dylan Moran. I'd not seen Black Books before. I'd not seen any of his stand-up, and I don't know if you've seen his stand-up shows, but like, if you haven't, please go and watch them because they are incredible. They're a little bit surreal, but amazing. Yeah, I thought they just and obviously Lucy Davis again. Her little acting scene, you know, where she's teaching them how to act to be zombies and that, and she's so proud of herself when she's like a drunk that's lost a bet. Like she keeps going dipping into this typical wanky drama student, and as an ex-one, I can say that without issue. Like, you know, and like I say, each of them just get this moment in the sun. Like, I'm surprised that none of them really worked with Ed, because he tends to, you know, keep similar cast members around. I know obviously a few he doesn't, but like, I'm surprised that with this being the one that kicked everything off for him in terms of his feature films, that they weren't in more often. Maybe they had different projects, I don't know, but yeah, I thought they were brilliant. I love David as that antagonist, because the real antagonist obviously is zombies and can't have that. You know, there's got to be a human element. There's got to be and the fuck off Four Eyes bit, like, again, just gets me I don't know what it is, but the awkwardness of David afterwards, where he's like, I don't know what I meant by that. I don't know, like, just the lingering silence it's perfect. And again, each of them getting either their own death or their own way out. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I know when we talk about supporting cast as well, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but Peter Serafinowicz is amazing. If you want to live like an animal, go live in the shed. Like, and he's again on the special features. Sorry, I will calm myself down. On the special features on the DVD, there's a thing called Funky Pete, and it's where like they tried to make an edit for TV that worked. So you know that it's 4 in the fucking morning. It's fucking Sunday. They replaced the word fuck with funk, and it's amazing. Like, it's on the DVD. Again, watched it over and over again. It's fantastic. I thought he did a cracking job.
Prick with like prink or something like that, and
Brink,
as well.
yeah.
I was reading like a breakdown of the words that they changed, and funk instead of fuck, and then prink instead of prick. I was like, I don't even know how that would work, but.
And I think it's because it's at the end. It's where it's quite like drawn out, isn't it? It's quite like he goes like prick, and like it sounds. It's on the special features. Just it's literally like the best 90 seconds you'll spend today. I promise. Yeah,
Apart
but
from
like you say,
this podcast, of course.
No, yeah, fair point. I'll redo it at some point. But yeah, it's the supporting cast are amazing. Like, sorry, just to bring us back around to your original point, which was yeah, I think they all add something, but it's not like a typical film where you've got, like, obviously it wouldn't work in this scenario, but you know, like in American films where you got the jock, the nerd, all that kind of stuff. They're not stereotypical. Like, they've all got their own personalities. They've all got their own history, which I love as well. All of them do a fantastic job.
Collie?
Yeah, I mean, like, we'll say this about all his films, I feel, but is the kind of supporting cast and the cast that he brings together is always top notch. I would just say, like, the only thing I don't mind Liz, but like, she's probably the most like early 2000s UK like comedy film acting chops wise. So it doesn't bring me out of it ever, but there's just like levels, I guess. And then Lucy Davis, obviously I'd seen The Office by the time that I'd watched Shaun of the Dead, so to me she was Dawn, you know, so I was like happy with that. And she was great. Like the standout scene that you mentioned, I totally agree. Is the one when she's teaching them how to be a zombie, and there's a zombie behind her, like doing the noises and stuff like that, and she's just like, yeah, and then like you say, how proud she is that this is her moment to, you know, I've studied drama my whole life to teach you how to be zombies and stuff, and then it comes to the scene of them being zombies, and it's just like so silly. And yeah, by the time I'd seen this, I was like well into Dylan Moran, especially his stand-up. Like his first one, or one of his major ones, was Monster, and that's when you could like smoke and stuff like that, and you could drink on stage like quite openly. So I'm pretty sure it's in Dublin, and he's just hilarious in it. Like you say, very surrealist, but he's so funny. And then there's one after, is it What It Is or something like that, and he tells this story about like Arnie, like lifting things and stuff like that, and how his mum would like make him perform for people, and then the cage would come down. He's just so funny, and his comedic like delivery spot on. But in this, he's like probably the most serious almost of the characters, which is kind of a juxtaposition of how he is in his actual career. But no, he's spot on, and like he's not really done much acting wise. He was in, what else was he? Was he in? Was it Run Fat Boy Run? He was in.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he
well.
was.
So yeah, he's perfect. And Peter Serafinowicz as their flatmate, like amazing. But like back when I watched this, you know, when I was like 16, 17, I was like, oh, he's just being a knob. Like they're just trying to have fun. And then see, as soon as you start working and stuff, you're like, oh my God, I completely like side with him. And it wasn't until maybe a couple of years later after that I realized that he's the voice of Darth Maul. Mm-hmm. So every time after this, I'm watching it, I'm just like, fuck, that's Darth Maul. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you not know that he was the voice of Darth Maul?
Not a clue. Not a clue.
He calls himself a fan of Edgar Wright, you know what I mean?
I know.
And one of the main characters. Shocking. No, but he's the voice, and I can't remember the name of the guy.
Ray Park.
Ray Park does the acting of it, but his voice wasn't obviously up to scratch for George Lucas. So yeah, Peter Serafinowicz is Darth Maul. There we go.
Yep.
But yeah, top to bottom, cast is great. Like, I don't mean to like single Liz out as being like shite or anything. It's just compared to everybody else, which is a bit like shrill at points, or it's just a bit amateur-ish, but not like to completely write off. Still really good, and doesn't like drag scenes out or anything. But it's just Edgar Wright's always like, oh, be really like, you know, over the top at this point, and she's just went to a million, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Actually, like I've never really thought about, like, there was always something about Liz that I kind of like could put a finger on that was a bit like I'm not 100% sure, but I think you're right. It's the shrillness, I think, at some points. But again, like that's maybe what Edgar Wright was going for with it potentially. But
her eyeshadow's very of the time as well, I will say.
Yeah,
it's like bright purpley blue stuff.
Yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bold strategy. Sorry, Massey. What? Talk through the cast yourself. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just gonna actually try and get you guys involved here. So like, obviously, Diane got them to start doing their zombie noises. But what's your best zombie noises? Told you.
That was good. Can I say I'll do it on the night? Is that too much? Is that too on the nose? To
no, it's fine. He's referencing the film, so it's very good.
Yeah.
Well done, Bud.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take it.
Proud of yourself,
good. Yeah, absolutely thrilled. Like,
just do the
it's not as if I haven't watched these films. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was all right. Good. I've watched, like I said,
it sounded like a drunk. So yep, spot on.
Yep. I'll try mine.
That might be the best, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Fair play. You win.
Thank you. Yay. Right. Okay. So we spoke about Shaun of the Dead for 20 odd minutes. Is there anything that you guys want to discuss? Is there any sort of like little references or quotes that you want to bring up that I'm sure Todd's got plenty of them, but Collie, is there anything that you want to like talk about before we let Todd have his finish?
No, it's not really. It's talking about a quote, but it's amazing the amount of people that will see like Todd in a Twitch chat and immediately know the reference, which is kind of amazing. 20 years in, that it said what 2-3 times, 3 times I think during the film. Got red on you, and it's just like such a flippant line. But obviously, Todd, that's your Twitch handle. And whenever I've seen people in the chat and clock onto that and start talking about movies or that, they're always just like, is that a Shaun of the Dead reference? Which is really cool. So it's like, it stood the test of time. The screenings this year of it being back in the cinemas for its 20th anniversary, which I find is kind of insane, really.
Yeah.
like obviously I didn't see it on its original run, but still like a 20-year-old film, and it's one of the ones that probably defines our generation from a UK film standpoint, I would say. So
I think as well, like the sort of influence it's had, or at least the kind of like widespread influence it's had, like the amount of like big directors that always talk about like it or you know his
Tarantino's one of his top 20 films ever or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean even so again, I'm a big zombie fan, so like George A. Romero actually got Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg into Land of the Dead because he loved Shaun the Dead so much, which is like it's incredible that it's got such a wide-reaching
Another quote I love is yeah, boy. I love that. I think even on my phone in like the early 2010s or whatever, I managed to get that as like my text tone. So every time I got a text, it was that. Which
I think
is
I
class.
remember that actually. Your phone just always doing that. I think I remember that. Yeah. Jesus. Okay, Todd, you can have your finish. You can get yourself empty if you want to go.
Oh
ahead.
no, two more to go. So just save yourself.
Yeah. I'll calm myself down.
Yeah. Just get the pre part out. Yeah.
Dare I say pre-cum? But yes.
Yeah. Great minds.
Right. Here we go. First off, just talk about the generational stuff. So like, I went to see it with my dad on at the cinema on Friday, like last Friday, and he's in his 60s, and he was saying everybody he's talking to, like at work and stuff, are all all love Shaun of the Dead. Like it's not something, and like at work, you know, working with like teenagers and stuff, and they're all aware of it. Like they all, even if they haven't seen it, they know what it is. It's like I do think it's a phenomenon. There's no sort of like sugarcoating it. You know when I said about like I notice new things every single time, and like the favorite thing that I've noticed that I don't know if a lot of people have, and if they have, I'm pleased because it should be. But is when Barbara rings, when his mum rings and says, "Do I need to make anything specific?" Because I know a lot of people don't eat meat anymore, which is ridiculous because everybody's eating meat because everybody's eating each other. And I thought that like stuff like that, like I'm sure we're all aware of, like, because it's on every reel, every YouTube video where it's talking about go to for a Bloody Mary, then go, you know, for a bite of the king's head, all that, like, and it's referencing, you know, the plot of the film, like stuff like that. But like even at the cinema, and maybe it's because it's it's not the first time, but it was a really sort of like, because it was a big cinema, the sound when he's talking to his mum, and the line about motherfucker is one of my favourite, where he chased me around the garden with a piece of wood. Well, you did call him a you know what? He told you that, did he? Yeah, motherfucker. And then she goes, Shaun, he goes, sorry, mother, mum. Like,
himself is so good.
When they're talking there, you hear Ed crash the car outside. So, and I just, like, again, never, because I've never listened to it with like a massive sound system, and we were like, I sent you to the picture. We were sat literally second row because we couldn't get tickets for it any further back. Like, it was just mental. That, yet again, I'm learning new things about it. And if you haven't, either you two or anybody listening, if you haven't read You've Got Red on You, the book by Clark Collis, it's like a really good insight into like how it was made and why it was made, and like the difficulties that they faced. It's amazing. But yeah, so I won't go too much into it. If anybody wants, you know, give us a message and I'll just gabble on for 6.5 hours. But yeah.
Yeah, what it would just to talk quickly about the Edgar Wright thing and stuff. Obviously, you said in the introduction about the quick cuts, and this is when it's like his breakfast routine and all that kind of stuff's really quick cut in this. But one thing that I love, especially in this one, is like the reveal shots. So like when Ed's crashed the car, you're looking at him, and then does he move or the camera moves?
The camera,
and
yeah.
You just see behind him, and it's the same as like talking about Bill Nye and he's dead or whatever, and he's like, no, he's not Shaun, and then you see him reveal, and he's changed into the zombie at that point. Like, I feel that that's a real Edgar Wright type thing, is that talking about something, you can't really see it, and then it's like revealed that this has happened or that's happened or whatever. I thought that's definitely in this film, and again on Tuesday being like locked into, like, you know, no phones, no nothing, watching the film, I definitely picked up on that more than I had previously, I think.
Good stuff. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, look, happy enough with what we've discussed there then. Todd got his little fill. His little teasy fill. So, I mean, why don't we go through what our ratings were on Letterboxd? Collie, what did you give it?
3.
Fair enough. I gave it 1.5. No, Collie.
Yeah, it's a 5 for me.
Yeah, same for me.
Always has been, always will be.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah.
Todd?
Never gonna move. Never gonna shift. Give it a 6 if I could.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, doke. So let's move on to the next film in the Cornetto trilogy. So we have Hot Fuzz. An overachieving London police sergeant is transferred to a village where the easygoing officers object to his fervour for regulations, all while a string of grisly murders strikes the town. Okay, so Hot Fuzz, obviously, as I say, second one in the Cornetto trilogy. Collie, thoughts on Hot Fuzz?
So my relationship with this film's somewhat up and down. So I didn't see it again. I didn't see it in cinema because I don't think I'd seen, because this came out 2007. So I don't think by this time I'd seen Shaun of the Dead. It was maybe a year or two after that, maybe off the back of the buzz of this. But I seen this around the similar time as Shaun of the Dead, and I just didn't really click with it. A couple of years later, I was like doing my apprenticeship and stuff, and some of the guys, when we were away for the week, they had it on DVD, so they were watching it at least once a week or whatever, and it just didn't click with me. And then it wasn't until a couple of years later that I started to enjoy it more. And spoiler alert, but it wasn't until these rewatches that it surpassed Shaun for me personally in my enjoyment of it. For the longest time, like, I didn't really like Nicholas Angle. I thought like he was just too, as a character, I was like, he's just too good and like, you know, brown nosy and stuff like that. So that irked me the wrong way. But when watching it with maybe a bit more of a discussion point, kind of head on, I've just enjoyed it a lot more. So I loved rewatching it for this. And it's just got everything. It's just everything's like turned up a little bit more, and it's Edgar Wright's like buddy cop film, and that's a genre of film that I really, really enjoy. So I kind of, looking back, I'm like, why didn't I like this? But that's kind of where I am start to finish with it. It's definitely been a grower, and now it sits atop the mountain of the Cornetto trilogy. Spoiler alert.
Good stuff. So talking about growers and shores, Todd, thoughts on Hot Fuzz?
It was the difficult second album, wasn't it? Because I'm just going, I don't know how to comment, so I'm just going, yep, next one. It was the definition of it, because I was already in love with Shaun of the Dead by the time I got to watch it. Because again, I don't think I know I didn't see it at the cinema, and had to wait for it to come out on DVD, and was kind of a bit apprehensive of like why they make it. I know it wasn't a sequel, but it was still like, it felt like a sequel. It was marketed as like the next bit of it or whatever. But I've just, like I say, I've just grown to love it. And again, spoiler, I wouldn't have an issue with anybody putting any of the three for different reasons on top of each other in terms of a ranking. But yeah, it's just, like you say, it has everything. I think that's a great way to put it. It has those horror elements that, like, I'd not seen things like The Wicker Man until very recently, actually, but I'd not seen a lot of the influences to it. But I had seen a lot of the buddy cop stuff and really like that. Again, Peg and Frost just have the best time, and you can see it, and it plays up on screen. Massive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny you said that, Collie, about the fact that how it didn't quite click with yourself when you first watched it. 'Cause I was exactly the same. I think maybe because Shaun the Dead for me has always been so strong, from like basically first watch onwards, like it's always been like top tier. I was the same as you. Like I don't know what it was. I didn't quite, I didn't enjoy it, but I think it was maybe seeing likes of say Peg in an uptight role as opposed to from the juxtaposition of seeing from Shaun. But I think I maybe see this 3-4 times sort of thing. And I think from like maybe each watch I've enjoyed it more and more and more. And yeah, like watching it again, as you say, I think you're absolutely spot on, Collie, when you have that head on to like kind of analyze things, or at least try watch it as more than a movie or like, sorry, that sounds really fucking wanky. When you try and watch it like with a bit of thinking about what am I going to talk about, or like that's a cool thing to speak about and stuff. Like I feel like there's a lot more to it. It's almost like it's a more layered film, which I think maybe, and it might be the same for yourself, Colette, I didn't quite get when I was younger and a bit more immature and stuff, potentially. But yeah, absolutely. Like watching it again, like I really, really, really enjoyed it. I'm not going to spoil if it's above Shaun or not, but I really, really enjoyed this film. So thinking about, obviously, we spoke about the dynamic duo of Peg and Frost in Shaun of the Dead. How do you feel that they were in this film then? As obviously Nicholas Angel and Danny. Collie, what was your thoughts on the dynamic duo this time?
I thought it was cool this time because like they didn't know each other at the start of the film, so it's literally becoming friends for the first time. So obviously he arrests him in the pub, and then the next morning he appears beside him like, "Oh, what we're looking at in the cell?" He's like, "Why are you wearing a police officer's uniform?" And that it's just so fun. I love Ed Frost's like country accent in this. His delivery of it's impeccable. And yeah, I just love the dynamic that Simon Pegg Nicholas is like so anti Danny and stuff at first. He's like, I don't want to have to like teach you how to be a police officer, but when he starts to do that because he realizes he's not got real support in the town, he kind of takes Danny under his wing, which I think is a really cool dynamic of the relationship. And then when they go and watch all the action films at Danny's after night in the pub, it just cements. I think they're brilliant, and again, similar to Shaun of the Dead, that is. I think Nick Frost steals it for me in terms of the character and the actor that I enjoy more in it, and that's not like an anti-Simon Pegg thing. He is Nick Frost is the more comic relief in both of the films, so I think it's almost written that you're supposed to click with him more, but I certainly did. I think he's really, really funny. And just a bit about Nick Frost's like preparation for the role. He was asked to watch like 20 action movies, and he only watched one, and it was Bad Boys 2. So he again, his method acting puts Daniel Day-Lewis to shame, personally, but, or in my opinion, rather. But yeah, Todd, what about Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in this? What did you think, or what do you think, rather?
Yeah, I'm with you. It, like when you said about things being just turned up to 11 type thing, I think that's what it is. It's that, like, once they form that relationship, there's still that power dynamic between the two. But like you said, I think I like Nicholas more once he's accepted Danny and starts having a bit more fun. Like, that's where his character comes to life a little bit more, because he is just a sort of stick up the ass type thing, Sorry, is that not a phrase that people use? I don't know. Might be just me. Yeah, but he's like you say, he's so to the letter. Like, and at least where Shaun had a bit of leeway about him, where he was that bit of a loser, and it kind of like there was some sort of relatability. He loses it a bit in this. I think they're brilliant. And again, I think you can see how much fun they have and how much of a laugh they have. And like, my favourite gif of all time is them two. It's obviously an outtake, but it's them two when they're in the field looking for the swan, and they just like dancing in the police outfits. You can see the relationship between them, and I think whether that's, like you say, when they're first forging their friendship, when they're not forging the friendship at all, when Nicholas is arresting him and stuff, you can see it. You can feel the chemistry between them. Again, I do prefer Nick Frost in this film. He's just brilliant. But again, both of them are. Massey?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Collie. I think Nick Frost's country accent, it's probably, I would say, his second best accent after his one that he does in Fight With My Family. Like, I think it's just it's so good. But yes, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Collie. I know you have like nightmares whenever that film's brought up. So yeah,
I was muted there. I went, shit film.
Oh me. Yeah, sorry. So the relationship, I completely agree. I think it's almost the growth of it that I find so endearing, is that they like you say, when they start off and Simon Pegg is this uptight guy that arrests Danny, not even knowing he's a police officer, to where they get to at the end as being like as good pals, and as you say, call it like the buddy cop kind of dynamic that they end up having at the end. And I think it's just such an interesting progression that they go through. Certainly Simon Pegg's character. I agree. I think Nick Frost is again the star of it. But I feel like Simon Pegg's character and performance allows Nick Frost to be the main guy in it, which is again an interesting sort of dynamic with stuff there. So yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so in terms of, again, we talked about the supporting cast of Shaun the Dead. It was a relatively small supporting cast, I suppose. This one, there's names here, there, and everywhere. Cameo after cameo. Some people we don't even see their faces of, which I think is such a bold move. But in terms of obviously the people that pop up, the cameos or the supporting cast, what kind of stood out for yourself, Collie? Do you want to start us off?
Just talking about the ones that you can't see their face and stuff, like Kate Blanchett's class. And if you, and genuinely, if you didn't like know it was her, it's really hard to tell. And funnily enough, after Todd's introduction, the director of the actual greatest film trilogy of all time, his cameo in this is Santa's spot on. And again, it's like you only see that that amount of him, and even if you know it's him, it's hard to tell that it is him. But sorry, I had to get that trilogy.
Do you want to just confirm who that is, by the way, as well?
It's
Christopher Nolan,
director of the Hobbit trilogy. So yeah, it's right from the off with the cast and stuff in this. Like when he's getting told that he's away to get moved out, it's like it's Martin Freeman, and then it's Steve Coogan, then it's Bill Nighy. That's the way the order that they come in. So you're like, fucking hell, like that's a step up. And then when you meet the police department, and it's got Olivia Colman, like Paddy Considine, and that in it, it's just it's that Jim Broadbent obviously is the is he the inspector or I can't remember the ranks.
Chief, yeah.
He's the chief, right? Yeah. Okay. I know it is inspector. I've just seen.
Oh, it's inspector. Apologies.
Oh, it's all good. I don't know police rankings. But yeah, so like he's brilliant in terms of like you think he's good, and then obviously the twist is that he's part of this like group of people again stacked with amazing cast people as well. But the standout for me is Timothy Dalton as Skinner. He's unbelievably good, and I only really knew him at the time from James Bond because that's pretty much all he's ever done other than this. Yeah, no offense, Timothy, if you're listening. But I think he's just so smarmy and charming at the same time, and he just nails it. And there was a bit in the trivia that I found which I thought was really cool. When they first meet, when Angel and him first meet, they filmed all of Timothy Dalton's scenes from like his perspective first. So then the next day when they were doing Simon Pegg's ones, he didn't have to be there, but he turned up and he did it off camera, so he would help Simon Pegg, and Simon Pegg was like, he'll always remember that as like how professional Timothy Dalton was. Because even though like he's not like a movie star as such, he was James Bond, so like he does have a bit of prestige about him probably. So he like quote unquote doesn't like have to do that. But I thought that was a really cool anecdotal bit behind the scenes. But yeah, top to bottom great. But it was good in this film that there was actually like an antagonist or like a clear bad guy, even though it's revealed obviously later on that there's loads of them. But to have him from the offset as the bad guy, I thought was really, really cool. And your man, what's his name? Yarp. What's his name again? The actor?
Rory McCann.
Yeah, Rory McCann is Yarp, of course. Years later would play the Hound and stuff. I just thought it was really funny. Like looking back as to other stuff that he did when he got like his bigger role in Game of Thrones. So yeah, top to bottom. But just to mention Dalton, especially just being a James Bond fan that I am, it was cool to see him be a baddie.
Definitely.
Todd, unload, please.
Give us your load, Todd.
So, Jesus Christ, getting worse. Dalton, just on that, like watching it for the first time, and he's such a. I thought it was a red herring. I thought he's too evil. It's too much for him to be the bad guy. Like, as in, it was a great double bluff. I thought the Andes. I love. Excuse me. Rafe Spall and Paddy Considine, like in everything that they do anyway. But them two together as the Andes are phenomenal. Like just arseholes from the very beginning. The skid marks scene where they just keep giggling at the word skid marks kills me. What does he call him? one Sergeant Fanny Batterbomb, like just ripping the life out of Nicholas Angel is fantastic. But then at the end, when like, you know, when they're together and they're fighting, the police are fighting against everybody else, just them two and their relationship, when he thinks that one of the Andys thinks that the other Andy's being killed, he's like, it's just bolognese. Like, it's ridiculous, it's over the top, it's brilliant. Olivia Colman makes me laugh every time with like her sort of like innuendos, and I've had me top off in this lay-by a few times. The one that really like sort of stood out for me on a first watch, and I remember it just because of where I was in terms of what I was watching, David Threlfall. I never know how to say his surname. The guy who played Martin Blower.
Oh yeah.
So I watched Shameless. I've not watched the American one, but the UK version, and he was the main guy in it. He was Frank Gallagher. He was an absolute like disgusting human being, and to see, I refuse to believe it was him. It was just. It was beyond like reasonable doubt that like this man could be the same person that was this like downtrodden alcoholic in another film. I thought he was brilliant. Like you say, Frank Butterworth, he was amazing. Like, just so like Jim Broadbent has that sort of face that you can trust anyway. And when Nicholas goes to him and says maybe it's more than one, like you know, I was still of pure belief that he was going to be good and righteous. Yeah, like you said, you could literally go through every single one and talk about how good they are, because as a cast, it works perfectly. The last thing I will say is Edward Woodward. He was in The Wicker Man, and again, I only watched that for the first time last year, and this obviously has the Wicker Man like sort of feel about it. And it's just nice that they've got that sort of link between the films. Massey, I'm really sorry. Is there anybody else that you'd like to talk about?
It's absolutely fine. Again, yeah, you guys have covered most people I would suppose speak about. One person, David Bradley, is the guy with a thick accent that only the one with the less thick accent can understand. Tells Danny to then tells like, I think that's just brilliant, and it turns out he's got the mine in his shed. Like, it's just
the funniest bit about that scene is the last line that they talk about, and he's like yeah, I suppose, and then he like it's that's it. You can quite clearly tell that's what he says, but then he translates it a little bit, and then Nick Frost is just like, well, yes, I suppose, at the end in like a really posh accent.
It's just so good.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it's just such a stacked cast though, and then even like Stephen Merchant is like a tiny little pop up where it's him that's getting when he thinks
he's lost the swan.
Yeah, the swan, yeah, and he thinks that he's like joking about the name or something, isn't it? Like with the first get
Peter Ian Staker.
Yeah,
come on, piss taker. Yeah.
Like,
and Bill Bailey is the twins in the police station as well. Yeah,
it's just fantastic. Like, again, just an absolute top to bottom of a stat cast. But I totally agree. I think Timothy Dalton was an absolute standout for me. Even from when I first wasn't sure of the film, like I always enjoyed his performance. I think he was incredible. And Collie saying there about how he showed up for work even when he didn't have to. I think that's a testament for a professional actor and stuff there. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. So we've kind of covered the cast and everything. We've spoke about obviously the dynamic between Peg and Frost. Was there anything else you want to talk about cast wise, or should we let Todd start to kind of unload on any more bits and pieces with any references, or you want to speak about?
I'm fine to just let Todd fire away.
All right, go for your waffle, Todd. Go for
it. Again, noticing new things. Last time I watched it, I've never noticed. You know, when he comes back to the town with all the guns and all that kind of thing, ready to kick ass. The Romeo and Juliet poster in the shop window is. So they've changed it. So you know that when he says one of them was an extra in Straw Dogs and one of them played a cadaver. So what they've done is they put Romeo and Juliet back on, starring them two as Romeo and Juliet. So when he comes back into town, and I just think little things like that it's like, right, the town keeps moving. They've got rid of Nicholas Angel, the town keeps moving. I thought that was really clever. I love the shopkeeper on the walkie-talkie when it's that Nicholas Angel's coming into your shop. Get a look at his arse, and then when it's like that Nicholas Angel's back, get a look at his horse. It kills me it's so stupid. It's brilliant. Like, and I think that like it was October 3rd a couple of days ago, and everyone was celebrating Mean Girls and all that kind of thing because they mentioned it. It's the 22nd of February. What year? Every year. Like that. And that I often like reference that kid with the braces. Like when you're stuck for something to say and he just goes, ah! Like, he sticks with me. Again, like it's one of those films that you could go on and on about, and I'm not going to because I just think it's I'd like to hear what if there's anything else you two want to. But sorry, before I do, in terms of soundtrack, I've said this before. I think it might have been on Twitter. I think Edgar Wright, which is the director we talked about, puts together the only person who puts together a soundtrack, not score, but a soundtrack better than him is Tarantino. Like them two sort of vie out for like the best soundtracks, and I think the use of music in the film or in all of his films are fantastic. And I should have said that earlier, but even in Shaun of the Dead, when we didn't talk about the Queen, Don't Stop Me Now with the pool cues and stuff, and a lot of like punk rock in this, like especially when with the action scenes and stuff, works really well. So yes, to Collie, anything else you want to add about Fuzz?
No, I just think like the unraveling of the plot and stuff, like everyone getting killed off, and that I think it's really, all of his films are different, but I think this is kind of one of the more interesting like explorations that he does around this kind of film. And I guess I'm just really happy now that it's clicked with me the way that it has. For the longest time, I was a bit like, yeah, it's fine, but Shaun of the Dead was like head and shoulders above it, and now I've changed that through multiple rewatches and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to watching this. I think it's next month, and I think I sent you the details of it. The independent like charity movie theater in Glasgow showing Hot Fuzz and Point Break back to back next month. So I'm really looking forward to that, and lying down and the shooting up and screaming in the sky kind of thing. Hope maybe some audience participation in that. Maybe not with the guns, but with the screaming perhaps. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I just think it's such a funny and obscure double bill to put on that a lot of folk will be like, why is that being put together? But it's not until obviously you watch it and you realize like Danny loves that film more than anything, and at the end it's replicated and stuff, so it's it's class. I really enjoy this film. I don't know what else to say really. Massey, anything to add?
Yeah, no, not much more. Just again, I think the fact that it starts off as one genre and then kind of like it touches on a lot of different ones as well. Even things like, as you said, Tobin turns up in the horse, like it's almost like Western coded, like the fact that he's like this lone rider coming into town and things, but then again there's like the cliches of like the cop movies and the mystery stuff. I think it just does everything so well. And even in my notes, like I've put like the third act is basically perfect. Like I don't have much faults with the third act. I think it's so over the top and it's so enjoyable. Yeah, I just think it's fantastic.
I think it's the most quotable of the films for me anyway.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like the gun stuff about farmers' mums and stuff like that, like farmers and who else? Farmers' mums. and talking about gifts earlier, Todd. One of my favorite gifts is Danny with the shotgun and the shame. I love that gift so much. It's so good.
Absolutely.
Or sorry, Danny's delivery of when it's the call back to he's a doctor, he can deal with it, and then they shoot him and he goes, "You're a doctor, deal with it," and then fucking Danny goes, "Yeah, motherfucker," and does that like full American accent. That is sorry, I had to.
And it's when they're at the play and Danny's like echoing, "Oh, we can't accept like gifts off of people that we've rebuked." Is it rebuked or whatever? I can't remember the word that's used, but he just echoes what Nicholas had said in the station when he got offered the theatre tickets and stuff. I think their dynamic in this is just hilarious. And I know we've talked about Nick Frost, but yeah, he's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Just one final thing: the Neighborhood Watch Alliance as well, the NWA, brilliant.
For the greater good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
You said NWA is genius.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, doke. Anything else you want to discuss with that, or happy enough with that?
Oh, all
Or-
good. All good.
I think Todd could probably go longer, but we'll save you for the last part.
Yeah. We'll move on.
We could have done an episode each on
Yeah.
each film. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Okay,
For the
so
30th anniversary.
yeah, of our podcast.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go through ratings for Letterboxd then. Collie,
It's a 5 for me. It probably started at maybe a 3 or 3.5, like if I had it years ago, but yeah, it's a 5.
good stuff. Todd,
Yeah, 5.
5 for me as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Excellent. So this truly is like a loving episode, isn't it? I love it. Right. Okay. So we will move on to the final episode, final film in this episode, and the final film in the Cornetto trilogy. We're going on to The World's End. So 5 friends who reunite in an attempt to top their epic pub crawl from 20 years earlier, unwittingly become humanity's only hope for survival. Collie, thoughts on The World's End?
So again, an interesting kind of history with this. So by the time this came out in 2013, I'd seen the other films, and again, my relationship was Shaun's like so much better than Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is fine. And I came out this film thinking that like, oh, this could eventually surpass Shaun. I loved this film from first watch, and kind of coming out of it and then seeing the kind of discourse around it, that it's quite a polarizing film, or it's quite a Marmite film. I found quite interesting. But I've always liked this from when I first watched it through the multiple rewatches throughout the year, and even I watched it last night. Percy had never watched it before, so I was like, "Oh, what do you want to watch?" He was like, "Oh, well, out of Edgar Wright, he's like, I've not seen World's End or Last Night in Soho." I was like, "Well, we're talking about World's End in the morning. Let's watch that," and he loved it as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts if there's anything that detracts from this compared to the other two, or just on its own. Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, so first one of the trilogy I watched at the cinema on release, because I was so excited, and I liked it when I first watched it, but I felt a little bit let down, and I think it was because I'd watched Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz so much, and I was so used to like those references, those callbacks to like, what was said before, and I think it's less obvious in this one. It's not as, the, like you say, the callbacks and the sort of foreshadowing isn't as obvious. But on a rewatch, on multiple rewatches, like it's up there. It's phenomenal. We'll get into performances and stuff. I won't go too much into it, but yeah, I think it's, in terms of performances, it's the best film. I think each film has its own sort of like standout, like why it could be the best, and this is heavy on the performances. Again, stacked cast, great soundtrack, and just a great concept. Yeah, love it now, love it. Massey?
Good. For me, I feel like it's always kind of been the weaker of the three, just for my personal preference. Again, when I first watched it, I feel like, and again, we'll get into this, but I feel like because Simon Pegg's character is so different, like I feel like that's the in for me, and that's what made me find it the weaker one. But again, after having rewatched it maybe 2 or 3 times, I feel like I do enjoy it more. I get more out of it each time. I think you're absolutely spot on, Todd, that like the references maybe aren't as in your face, or at least aren't as obvious at first watch. But then when you go back and see it again, there's things that again you pick up more, and I think that helped my enjoyment with it. I really like the film. I really love the film. But I just, spoiler, do think it's the weaker of the 3 for me personally. But that's not to say it's a bad film, because I do thoroughly enjoy it. Okay, so again, let's start the discussion around the main 2 again. So the last film that the 3, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and Edgar Wright did, because of course Simon Pegg and Nick Frost did the Oscar-worthy Paul afterwards as well. But Simon Pegg.
How have we got to like an hour in, and that's the first time you've mentioned that fucking film?
I don't know actually. I've been thinking about it this whole time. So
I have as well. It's been in the back of my head. Like, how do I respond when he finally brings it up? How do I respond?
I could have been the bigger man and not talked about it at all, but sorry, I had to.
That was never going to happen, was it?
Absolutely
No.
not. So, Collie, yeah, thoughts on Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in this film?
Yeah, I absolutely echoing what Todd said. Like, the performances in this are probably the best performances of them, of Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, in terms of like dramatic performances and like character building or character expression performances. The relationship between Andy and Gary is obviously like one of, if not the focal point of the whole film, which is similar to the first two, but this is like the other end. So, you know, Shaun of the Dead, they're best pals and they're best pals throughout. Hot Fuzz, they become best pals throughout it, and then this one's like they've been best pals and now they're having to like rekindle that friendship. And I just Gary King in this is a piece of shit. Like, he is a real piece of shit character, but the further, like, I mean, like, you get, I say the further you get into it, but like they literally show him in a therapy session like at the beginning of the film. So the reveal later on when he's got the bandages around his arms and stuff, and he doesn't want to show his arms. Obviously, he's been having like mental health issues and stuff. I know that's supposed to be the big reveal, but it is hinted at, like, throughout it. But that's the kind of the culmination of him coming out to Andy and revealing what he's been through, and he was like, that was the best time of my life. So like those scenes are really, really good. Nick Frost's kind of unfurling from like this, like the bit that always gets me like in hysterics in this film is when he stands up at his desk when he first meets Gary and he goes like that, and Gary's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm showing you the door." And it's hilarious. And then he's like, "Is it a door? Does it have a lintel?" Which is a word he's just obviously learned like an hour ago. And then the delivery of window, it's perfect. It's so silly. Because this, like, it's weird to say, but I find this film to be the most serious, but the most silly of his films as well. Like, some of the jokes that Gary especially delivers in terms of like wordplay with the conversation that's ongoing in that is impeccable. So yeah, like I said, this is like their most mature performance, which is bizarre because I would probably say that Gary King's probably the least mature of all the characters that Simon Pegg had to play. So it's really bizarre, but it speaks to the chops of them both that they could pull this off, and they're not just, you know, this ginger guy and this fat guy who are like a good comedy duo kind of thing. Like, but that's how they could be typecast. But this kind of showed that they're better than that in a way. Not that that's like belittling what they did previously, but I think it kind of shows that they can actually act, you know, and they're not just a pair of goofs. Todd, sorry to ramble on a bit. What about Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in this? Did you not like all that kind of stuff?
I loved the shift in dynamic. I thought it worked really well. I think the silliness comes from like how Simon Pegg has to play comedy because it's a very different style of comedy to what Nick Frost would do, where like Nick Frost's when he's comedy, it's always like the more bumbling sort of stuff. Like even when he like towards the end of the film, when he's like pissed and he's like, I don't know it, but it's like they don't know that we don't know, and they know that we know, so we're gonna carry on. Fuck it, and like that sort of stuff is still
man. Like Percy properly burst out laughing at that bit when he just puts his hand through the pane of glass. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, like that's what it is. Like his comedy's the more bumbling stuff. I know it's like you say, good acting isn't just serious acting, but like the It's All I've Got is amazing because I think it comes out of nowhere. Like Simon, sorry if people aren't aware, but like Simon Pegg's delivery of the line "It's all I've got" when he's asked like why are you so obsessed with it, why'd you keep doing it? But like you say, the dynamic between them, and I just love. I fucking hate this town where Nick Frost rips his shirt. I fucking hate this town, and like it's just so like you say, ridiculous the situation that they're in, but it works so well. And that progress, Simon Pegg and Gary doesn't really progress. He doesn't really change throughout, and I think that's really that's class because that's the point. He hasn't changed for the last 30 years. Why is he going to change now? But I love the change in Nick Frost's character. And especially to the end when it's the three of them together, like Band of the Three Musketeers. Yeah, excellent. Massey?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, completely echo all you guys are saying. Like the whole thing about Gary hanging on to past because that's all he's got is such an interesting part of it to me. Like even stuff like the fact that his hair is like dyed black, so it's like you can tell that he's like, it's almost like he's like desperate to hang on to like his youth, where his hair wasn't gray or wasn't going gray. It was like like a youthful kind of black and stuff, and still wears like the long the like coat and stuff, and his car from back then as well, when they first get in the car and the others are commenting on like, oh, you got like a replica of like the one you already had, and he's like, no, this is still the same one. Like it's like just things like that where he's just hanging on to the last sort of the remnants of when he felt good. I think it's as an interesting performance from Simon Pegg. Again, like when I first saw it as well, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I don't think I understood the nuances to it. I definitely got them like later on and stuff. But and of course Nick Frost being like almost a straight guy for a lot of it is so interesting from the two films that we've seen previous. But yeah, I thought their performances were absolutely fantastic. I wrote down a lot of. We can go through quotes and stuff just now if you want, but I wrote down a couple of quotes that that Gary says, and one of the things that I thought sort of caught on as well is he almost seems a bit David Brent, like with some of the ways that he says things, like his cadence and like his facial expressions, like really reminded me of some David Brent things. But like things like let's get this antique on the roadshow when talking about his like old car. When Andy orders a pint of water and he says he's drinking fucking rain.
Like, that's so good.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And there's one that I only really caught this time around because of TikTok, funnily enough. But basically on TikTok there's been a lot of stuff that I've seen around Cabaret, the musical, and the like opening song, because Eddie Redmayne was cast in the recent Cabaret, and like folk were taking the piss out of his performance, but and Alan Cumming did it previously, and it was really cool and stuff. But it starts off like Willkommen, Bienvenue, welcome to start a song, and when Rosamund Pike shows up, they're talking about how she was in Cabaret in school or something like that, and Andy goes, Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. But it's like he's like welcoming her to the pub, but he's also referencing Cabaret, which I thought was like such an interesting.
That's genius. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it really is. So and then I just thought like things like that are such an interesting couple of quotes and stuff that they had. Also, one that I thought was really stupid was when they said about smashy Eggmen. I thought that was horrendous.
Ridiculous.
I don't know who would.
When Percy heard that last night, he was like, and I was like, yeah, that's where Todd got it from. And he's like, oh, okay.
Again,
yeah, one of the funny guys
personality around it
about his car. When he was like, oh, it's the same car, but then he lists off all the stuff that's changed, and it proper reminded me the Trigger from Only Fools and Horses joke, where he's just like, oh, I'm like, I won an award for like a broom sweeper or whatever, and he's like, I've had this broom for my whole career. He's like, I've just replaced like the head 16 times and the handle 8 times or something like that, and you could just see everyone standing around going, that doesn't make it the same one.
It's also it's a philosophical question, that one, the Ship of Theseus, where it's like if the ship has been changed, like parts of it have been changed over time, is it still the same ship? Yeah, just thought.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought they were referencing that whole time. Yeah. But it's the funny thing again about when he first arrives to pick them up, when they're saying like, oh, it's 3, it's almost 4. He's like, yeah, 3 for 4, and then just as they're away to leave, I think it's after he tells the roadshow joke, it goes to like all 4 of their faces, and it's the clock striking 4. So it's obviously when he's like 3 for 4. It's like he's arrived at 3:59. You know, I thought I only picked that up like last night. That's what happens, is that just as they're away to leave, it like goes like bong 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 when it like showing all their faces when they're unimpressed with. I think it's the roadshow joke.
Yeah,
but no, it's class, and it's like, I know we're talking about Simon Pegg for us, but that's like the genius Edgar Wright is. He just gets that stuff spot on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any more quotes or anything? I know. Well, should we let Todd kind of just, or we'll talk about the cast, the rest of the cast
Talk
first.
about
It's
the
obviously,
cast,
yeah, it's
yeah.
quite,
Yeah,
it's
talk
a
cast,
stacked
yeah.
cast. So yeah, of course, then as we're talking about the sort of like the group of them, so we've got obviously Nick Frost, Andy, but then you have Martin Freeman, you've got Paddy Considine and Eddie Marsan as well. Thoughts on them as the kind of the main supporting cast? What was your kind of thoughts on their performances? College, what start us off with the main,
Yeah,
main group?
I thought they were all good in terms of the introductory sequence when he's explaining how they all are in school. I think the adult actors embody the characters that were described pretty well. Like I love Paddy Considine, love Martin Freeman, but Eddie Marsan as Peter's hilarious, and the bit like late on when he's battering the bully and goes mental, and then obviously gets like captured and changed or whatever. I thought that was funny, but it's just he's just battering the guy on the ground. And the guy's like, "Why are you doing this, Peter?" And he's just like fucking hammering it. I thought it was just funny because he's just this small sheepish kind of character that he's playing. But I thought the three of them were great, and I thought that like the five of them as the gang, the dynamic was good at, because if you've got that many people in a scene or in a conversation, it can kind of get a bit jumbled. But I think the quick fire lines between them all was really good. I didn't think there was anybody that wasn't featured enough or didn't have like their moment. Similar to how in Shaun did, especially like each character got their moment in the film. I think in this everyone gets their moment as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Todd?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like Martin Freeman and Paddy Considine do a cracking job. I love that Eddie Marsan's character comes out of himself a little bit, because he's obviously like, you know, from where you see him when he's with his wife at the end. I know it's a little bit daft because of the hand and stuff, but like you can see that he's clearly not wearing any sort of trousers in that relationship. Like he's very much held down by her, the way that he speaks about her and stuff. So he like lets himself go in that. So when they're in the smokehouse, the bowling house, and they say, he's like, "How would I know that somebody's written that King Gary's written?" And he's like, "No, it isn't. It's King Gay." And then about 3 minutes later, you just hear him go, "King Gay," and like giggles to himself. And like when he and the other one where they like talking about like carrying on and doing shots or whatever, and he just goes, "Fuck yeah!" Like it's the most out of character thing for him, but he's fantastic. Paddy Considine like kind of took me out of it a little bit when I first watched it, because it was so different from anything I'd seen him do. Again, like this is obviously pre-Journeyman and stuff like that, pre-Tyrannosaur and all that kind of stuff. It was all like, in fact, is it only Hot Fuzz I might have seen him in before this? And he played it so straight, and I like that shocked me a little bit. But I thought like the little in joke and the repeating joke about the band, getting the band back together, that would be a good name for the band. Thingy and the Aquanazis or whatever it was really good. And Martin Freeman, he's so watchable. Like he's just like it's hard to describe, but he's endearing, and I sort of feel sorry for him a little bit, and I don't know why. Like there's nothing to feel sorry for. He's a successful guy.
I think he's the knob of the group. That's really interesting you said that. I thought he was like the knob of the group, especially with the WTF and the Bluetooth earpiece and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I always read him as just like he's just a knob. But yeah, I guess that's different ways that you interpret it. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah. No, that's it. Like it's just like I say. I think because they're all as well like set above Gary. They all have like a station in life. They all have something that they've been successful at. It just puts them like so different. And like I say, like you said, they all get their moment in the sun. And then obviously we've got the cast on further outside. Sorry, Massey. What about the rest of the gang?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's really good that we see like we almost get an introduction to their lives, like at the start. Like it's not a case of like he just quickly glosses over what they do and stuff. We actually see them at their jobs and like being actual adults and stuff. I think that's a really interesting part of it, because it has us in that mindset of like they are the mature ones, they're the adult ones, and he's like the kid of the group. Even though he's in his mind the leader and stuff. I think that's a really interesting way that they sort of frame it for us, even from the start. I think it's a really good way of doing it. And yeah, absolutely. I think when there's a bit when Martin Freeman comes out of the toilet after he's been changed, and he's just got this like little strut on him, and like it just, I don't know why, it just tickles me every time. Like, I think it's brilliant. Like the way, because as you say, he's already got his Bluetooth, so he already looks a bit like a smarmy motherfucker. But then he like sort of like struts out and like sorts his suit and things. I just think it's a brilliant piece of acting there, and yeah, the also the kind of almost love triangle, I suppose, between Gary, Paddy Considine, and Rosamund Pike. I think such a strange dynamic as well, because again, like, it's partly living in the past and partly like they're all kind of still caught in that sort of love triangle that's not a love triangle, if that makes sense. I think it's a really cool dynamic that they've got that they've got going there, definitely. So anything else you want to talk about in terms of cast? I mean, I've just touched on Rosamund Pike, but what do you think of her? Obviously, sort of popping up as the it's Martin Freeman's character's sister, isn't it? Yeah. What were your thoughts as when she came into the film, Collie?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I enjoy Rosamund Pike as an actress. The conversation, like right prior to when she's coming in, makes me laugh in terms of the recalling that she was in Cabaret and stuff like that, and then Stephen Paddy Considine got a boner on the stage. And then they start talking about like how she got off with somebody else. Oh, she had a massive wide on for so and so, and Martin Freeman's just like, can we not talk about my sister in regards to humongous wide ons and Stephen's erect penis? And then she arrives. It's just funny. Like, it's such a weird, not weird, but like how she just says "oh crumbs" all the time and stuff. It's just, it's an interesting like mouse-ish kind of character. I don't know. And then when she's having the conversation with the twins after Gary's told her about the smashy Eggman, and she's like, oh, he's just on about this, and then they say something, and then she's like, what? Because they say it in sync and it sounds a bit weird, and that fight after that's really, really good. But no, I thought she was great. The bit with Gary when he's like, oh, we'll always have the disabled and stuff. It's just so ridiculous, because she's like kind of, I think she kind of is the first maybe to talk to him straight and be like, we can't all act like we're 17 anymore when we're pushing 40. I think that's maybe one of the earliest kind of when it sinks in with him a little bit, perhaps, their conversation in the car after he's jumped on top of it and landed on top of it and smashed it, which again is just silly. But no, I thought she was really, really good. She's an actress that I enjoy in everything that she's been in that I remember. But yeah, she was spot on. What about you, Todd? Anything to add about Rosamund Pike or any other supporting cast?
No, like I think you've covered it. I think Rosamund Pike's one of these people who need bigger roles, because like Gone Girl and that I Care a Lot and stuff, she's an incredible actress, and I think she's not utilised well enough in other roles, and I think she will eventually, but in this she was fantastic. You not that fussed.
So you were just like later down the line, I'm just like, what kind of roles is she gonna get? Because she's probably like
pushing it.
Well, not pushing it or whatever, but it's just like, it's like she was in that Saltburn, which is a terrible film. But I thought she was good in it, but crap film. So maybe roles like that, but in terms of a movie star, I don't know. Like, if she might be in more Fincher things or stuff like that, which will be great. But in terms of being A-list, perhaps, I don't know. I think she's got in her. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying casting wise, I don't know what the issue is.
I think she's got the chops. I think that's
100%.
That's what it is. Yeah, I think the relationships are real, and I think she plays in World's End. Like she plays it really well with them. Like you say, that conversation with Gary in the toilets about, I'm not going to have sex with you and the ladies, and he's like, well, the disabled out of order. Like, that's brilliant. And then obviously with the sign, I thought that's fantastic. But yeah, I think she's like a really good addition in terms of like an escape route as well for everybody. Like it's like a logical type of thing. But yeah, I thought she was really good. I love Mad Basil. He was excellent, and Michael Smiley as the drug dealer. The Reverend Green, yeah, absolutely brilliant.
It's like we've got a secret code to do with talking about Herb. I can't remember what he says about drugs or whatever, and he just knocks on the bar, and he knocks once. He's like, "You got any drugs?"
Yeah. Oh man.
What is he again?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, some people perform their business in male toilets or something like that. When he says, I've got an office now, or some people's offices are the male toilets or something. It was spot on. Massey, have you got anything to add? Because I've got one to talk about, but you can fire away.
No, I was just gonna. Well, I don't want to step on your toes.
No. If it's who I mentioned, that's fine. But
okay, just a couple of folk that I. Oh no, I think I know who you're gonna. I think I know who you're gonna talk about. But Jim from Friday Night Dinner, Mark Heap, Shalom. He was in it. I liked him popping up.
I know, bartender.
Yeah, and then also Reece Shearsmith as well. I liked seeing him as one of the. He was one of the guys who hadn't been turned, but was like cooperating with him.
I
thought
love
it was
that bit
nice.
at the end. He's just, oh well, now what are we gonna do? And then they storm off. That is good. Yeah,
brilliant. But yeah, no, that was it. I think college, wasn't it?
Pierce Brosnan in it. Like I know he's only in it briefly, but he's so funny. And it's the little like speech he's got in it there. Pretty cool, eh, gang? And he like slaps his thigh. It's fucking hilarious. It's so good. What's his name? What's his name again? It's Guy Shepherd. And then they're like, you just call me Guy. And then Gary calls him Guy, and I think it's him and Peter just start giggling after they call him Guy and stuff, because obviously they've only ever known him as like Mr. Shepherd from school. But yeah, they're pretty cool, eh, gang? Just it's so funny and cheesy. Well, I think that's reflective of what the network thinks. Like they want him to speak like or whatever, or that's how he wants them to speak to they want Pierce Brosnan to speak to the kids like they're kids again.
It's like
as a teacher.
It's like Buscemi with the skateboard over his shoulder.
Yeah, what's up, yeah. I know. Pretty cool, eh, gang? Is just like probably one of my favorite quotes from this, and it's just so stupid.
Oh me. Before kind of moving on to like Todd's load blowing. Sorry, I don't have any innuendos for it anymore. The fight choreography, throughout, I thought was brilliant. Like especially obviously the fight in the toilets at the first half, and then of course you said about the fight with the twins and stuff, and the choice to use like blue blood for the robots, I think was interesting because
it's ink actually.
Sorry, yeah. It allows obviously to have gore without being gory, which I thought was a very interesting choice, which I really liked. So thoughts on the fight choreography? I know that's obviously a big part of it. Collie, what was anything?
I love the toilet fight's amazing, especially like the first guy that he kills. Like how he like rock bottoms him onto the urinal and his head pops off, and Percy audibly went "oh," because obviously he had no idea. But yeah, that fight's class, and I just love the bit like the shot of Peter crawling across the floor while they're all fighting in the background, and then he hides in the cubicle, and then is it not when they break down the door? He's like, "Somebody's in here," or something like that. It's so good. And then Andy gets his big like elbow drop at the end to finish it. I thought was pretty cool. And Percy, I know I keep talking about it because we just watched it last night, but it's when the guy does like the spinny round bit and puts Paddy Considine's head on the floor, and Percy's like, "Not the pissy floor." I'm like, yeah, I'm afraid so. Not that there's more pressing matters, but yeah, facing in a puddle of piss isn't good either. So yeah, no, I thought it was class. And the twins one's interesting because obviously it's the legs.
The legs, yeah.
The second part of the fight's like when they got the legs on it. I think I just thought it was really, really cool.
It reminded me of Toy Story. You know the one of the toys that's like being put together. It's got the legs for the arms. I thought it was cool.
Is that what the kid next door's toys or whatever?
Yeah. Todd, fight choreography thoughts?
Just the fight in the beehive after they've talked to Pierce Brosnan, where like Nick Frost's got the two bar stools on his hands. Phenomenal, and like with just keep going back to Simon Pegg trying to get the drink, trying to finish off a pint, and every time he tries, like he's getting knocked out of his hand, and he doesn't care about anybody else. I think Rosamund Pike's like in trouble or whatever, and he's still there trying to like finish off like pulling a pint. Him running across the bar stools, and I think a lot of films could learn from it in terms of they're so frantic, they're so like the fight scenes are so quick, and like you say, there's at least 5 or 6 people fighting at one time against other people, none of it feels like rushed. None of it feels sort of like we've got to go here. You see
It doesn't
everything.
have
You can
that
tell what
quick,
everything is.
that quick cuts constantly during fights, which a lot of films do nowadays. It allows just the choreography to speak for itself.
Which is quite interesting.
It's spot on.
Quite interesting when Edgar Wright will do the quick cuts for mundane stuff, like during films, but then when it comes to fighting, he actually lets it, as you say, lets fight choreography kind of breathe and stuff, which is interesting. Definitely, it doesn't have to be the quick edits and stuff. So, yeah, agreed. Right, okay, Todd. Anything else you want to Jack? I was going to say Jack on with, but anything else you want to talk about with the Cornetto trilogy? Or sorry, the World's
So
End.
you know the fruit machine that's in like, obviously it's like it plays a big part in Shaun of the Dead. Then you just hear it and what's his mouth pissing against it in Hot Fuzz. It was weird that we like in a film that's set around pubs. I was like, oh, it's not in it. And then it was literally the last pub when they're running past and you hear the like, I thought that was really cool. Again, like stuff I noticed later on was the WTF. So like when Martin Freeman's character keeps saying WTF, and that, what does WTF mean? What the fuck? Oh, right, yeah. Like I thought that was brilliant. But when Martin Freeman changes, he says what the fuck, and I thought that was really clever. Like I just thought it was like a nice little sort of WTF being like a quite modern phrase, like he wouldn't have that on file type thing. The jump, like getting your rocket and fuck off back to Legoland, you cunts. That line is just like, it just has so much behind it. And I love the Musketeers thing. I love that, like from the beginning, like you say, there's not a lot of foreshadowing. Oh, sorry, not a lot of obvious foreshadowing. Like it takes a little bit, but one of the bigger ones is obviously if there were 5, 3 of them, 2 of them could die, and there'd still be 3 left. And then obviously 2 of them die, and there's 3 left at the end. And I genuinely think it's one of the cleverest things is that like Gary King thinks he is, he knows it all and all that kind of thing. And he uses phrases right the way through, and the best that he doesn't know how to use. So the best example I can give is at the end when he says, "To err is human." So, and he doesn't know the phrase. He's heard a little bit of it before, probably in like one of his sessions or something, and he's just taking it as and when he can. And I thought that was really clever as well. But yeah. Okay. Anything else any of you two want to add on?
No, I think very good. Collie, happy enough with that?
No, let's boo-boo.
Let's boo-boo. Okay, so ratings then on Letterboxd. Collie?
It's a 5 for me.
Todd?
5 for me.
4.5 for me. But yeah. I'm not saying it couldn't be a 5, but yeah, 4.5 for me. Okay, so that was the Cornetto trilogy. Do you want to just quickly touch on the reasons why it's called the Cornetto trilogy? Because I haven't really touched on that as we've went through. Todd, do you want to maybe explain why it's called that?
Yeah. So, I mean, and as far as I'm aware, I've never really read, but it's the fact that in the film, at some point, there is a cornetto. So, in Shaun of the Dead, what you want from the shop, you get a cornetto, and it's red to symbolise blood for Shaun of the Dead. In Hot Fuzz, they go to the shop and he gets a cornetto and he gets brain freeze and it's blue for the police. And then it's a mint one. And again, so I'm like, this is the Cornetto trilogy. Yeah. How is there not a cornetto in it? And at the end, when the world ends, literally, he's like, I don't miss the process stuff. I'm happy being organic. And then the cornetto wrapper presses up against the fence, and like Nick Frost just does this kind of forlorn little. It's fantastic. Yeah. So there's a reference to the cornetto in each film, with a little reference to like the actual film itself.
But do we know why that cornettos were chosen though?
Oh,
the original
no.
film. According to Edgar Wright, cornettos appear in the movie because he once ate a cornetto to get a hangover and thought it'd be funny if Ed did the same. So
excellent. That's where it's come
from. Good stuff.
See?
Okay, doke. So that has covered.
Are you sure you like Shaun of the Dead though?
I know.
Maybe we'll see. give it a few watches and we'll. I
was gonna say I thought when you said that, Collie, that Todd was gonna go, yeah, it's because of blah 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 blah, but obviously not.
No, but like it was good to break down like the red, blue, and green things I think is really cool because like the green is the sci-fi stuff, and then the blue is the police, and the red's the zombie. So I thought the choice of the Cornettos are banging anyway. They're class.
Indeed.
Yeah, they are tip top.
Perfect.
If Walls, is it Walls that make them? Walls, or whoever makes Cornettos want to sponsor us.
We'll have them. We will eat a cornetto on each episode.
At LCD_pod on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. For each director, we'll assign a different color. So hopefully we've got like millions of cornettos. Like,
no. Like we'll go Cornettos for Edgar Wright, but then we'll find other Walls products for each other.
Right. Got
okay.
They make twisters, for example.
Oh, okay. It's Unilever, by the way, that is Cornettos.
Oh, it's not Walls then.
But Walls, if you want to sponsor us as well.
Yeah, we'll check out.
Yeah. Häagen-Dazs,
Magnum, Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
Enough talk about ice creams. So that is the first part of the Edgar Wright two-parter in the books. So obviously spoke about Cornetto Trilogy. We'll be talking about the other 3 films in his filmography in the next part, which will be out on Thursday. So again, just to recap, it's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Baby Driver, and then Last Night in Soho. So remember, if you're watching on YouTube, to hit the subscribe button and like the video, and also give us a comment as well about what you thought about the Cornetto Trilogy and what you enjoyed the most about it. And if you're listening on Spotify, of course, remember to follow us, like us, and give us a 5-star review, because we are a 5-star podcast on Letterboxd. But guys, thank you so much for listening, and or watching as well, and we will see you on the next one. Bye bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.